Today at Hoosier Rails to Trails Council, we're here to interview David Cook, a board member of the Indiana Trails Fund, our sister organization, whose recent encounter with a trail is not only exotic, but for most people in the Hoosier heartland, unique. And David, tell us, what was your destination on this trail adventure?
The destination is Santiago de Compostela, which is the community that has a huge cathedral, and in there are the relics of St. James, the Apostle St. James, and those are in a coffin, a silver coffin down below the altar of the cathedral. The trail is really a religious pilgrimage that is over 1,000 years that people have been traversing this land across northern Spain.
What's starting point officially?
Officially, the starting point is Saint-Jean-Port-de-Pied in western France. It goes up over the Pyrenees and then across northern Spain, across a couple of other mountain ranges, and ends at Santiago de Compostela.
And the pilgrimage normally takes about how long?
Normally it takes about 35 days to traverse that. Most people, I'd say the majority of people, do it in probably 35 or 40 days.
From its origin.
Right.
And you started?
We started in Leon, Spain, which is about 200 miles from Santiago. So we did basically a shortened version of this pilgrimage. And the reason for that is my traveling companion attempted to do the 500-mile pilgrimage in 2010, but due to foot problems, he had to miss 100 miles of that. So he asked me to accompany him back to Spain so that he could do his 100 miles that he missed, but we chose to do 200 miles to give me the opportunity to kind of have that pilgrim experience.
What was the terrain like? It sounds like it might have been an ordeal.
Well, the terrain's very different as you go across all types of geographical terrain. Some of it is mountainous, some of it is just flat. Encompassing the entire 500 miles, you run into everything. You go up over rough mountains. But it's a hiking trail, it's not mountain climbing. It's a trail, so there'll be a lot of hard scrabble stuff going up and down the mountains, which can be certainly a challenge. And then for days across the area that's sort of in the middle, I believe. It's not a part that we did, but it's called the Meseta, and it's just as straight as an arrow and flat, and there's no shade from the sun. Typically, people, the busy part of the Camino is in the summertime, and so it's really a challenge to get across that. It would be similar to just going across a desert, very dry, no shade.
No shade. So, were you alone, you and your companion? Did you encounter other people on the way?
Well, actually, you're sort of on your own on the Camino. Even though you may be with people, you're sort of on your own. And my particular companions were rather fast walkers, and I read this book before going, and it was written by a nun from Notre Dame, and the title of it was "Walk in a Relaxed Manner." So I thought, that's probably the way I should do this. It'd be walk in a relaxed manner, which is what I did. So we would start out together every day, but you have to realize there are lots of people on the on the Camino all the time, well, except at night. I mean, people are just walking during the day. And so you're gonna meet up with people. People are gonna pass you. You're gonna pass some people. There's and your greeting is Buen Camino.
So what's your experience of the length of the journey? How many days again were you on the road walking?
We were walking about 15 days, I think, 15 or 16 days, and our days our distances were about 13 miles to 18 miles.
Every day?
Yes, that's right. Every day. Every day. You get up in the morning. We stay in refugios or albergues or hostels. They're known by different names. I don't know that there's a difference between a hostel and a refugio and an albergue. There may be, but and these are just for pilgrims. When you check in and you start your Camino, you have to start it from an authorized place to start, and you get a passport. I've got one. I've got one here. This is my passport, and when you check in to an albergue, then they put a stamp on there that shows that you've done it, so that you've been there. Because when you get to your destination, you show them your passport, and they ask you a couple of questions, and then they'll give you a diploma, basically a credential that says that you completed the Camino.
Is there any way to get lost on the trail? Is the trail well marked?
The trail, I would say, is very well marked, but for the uninitiated, you have to be very observant as to where, and it's marked with either yellow arrows, very sort of bright yellow arrows, but over time they've sort of faded, and they have there's kind of a shell. There'll be an emblem of a shell like that that indicates the way you're supposed to go. And they have kilometer markers every half a kilometer. So you know where you are basically on the trail as you go. And the distance is from the beginning back there in France to the end in Santiago, which is Spanish for St. James. It's very interesting when you're just hiking. I thought there might be some time for some personal introspection, something of that nature, or thinking great thoughts. But actually, you're just taking care of business and making your way one foot in front of the other, which is with a pack on your back. That's a lot to take in, believe it or not, especially for 6 hours a day. But our routine was to get up in the morning, get yourself put together, and out the door as soon as you can, because you want to get on the way, because that's what you're over there for. And if they didn't have a place to eat right there in that little village, or if you wanted to go down the way a little bit, then you'd stop and have coffee and a croissant, a chocolate flavored croissant or something like that. And then you walk until lunchtime, and then you find another little bar or cafe. Get to our destination about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, sometimes as early as 2 or 3. And the routine then, we would check in, get your bed assigned, and they assign beds as you get there. So you can be sleeping next to, chances are you're going to be sleeping next to just another pilgrim, anyone that you might know or you might not know. And you put your sleeping bag out on the bed, and that claims your bed. Everybody knows the system. Then you go and take a shower, and you put your clean clothes on, and then you go take your dirty clothes that you've worn that day, or maybe for 2 days if you didn't get too dirty. Then you go do your laundry, and then you put that out to dry, and you're hoping it's not raining. And it only rained on us 2 days, and so that was very fortunate. So those days we were able to stay in a place that actually had a washer and a dryer. That was a real benefit. But it cost €3 to use the washer, and usually €3 to do the dryer. And so when you get your clothing situated, then we would go find a restaurant, usually a little restaurant, because we were staying in bigger towns usually at the end of the day. But when you get back from dinner, you are ready to go to bed.
No hay remedio que nos cure esta vida loca.
What was the low point of your journey?
The low point would be having actually experienced that shin pain. Now here's the deal with that. I'm a long-time runner. For 33 years I've run the mini marathon in Indianapolis. I've never had a shin splint, but I think what I had was a shin splint. And the only thing I can attribute it to was going down the mountains with that additional, my pack was only 14 pounds, but I think just that additional weight, and it's hard walking down those steep inclines anyway. So anybody who's walked down the Grand Canyon will tell you that's a tough hike. Much easier coming up.
And so what was the highlight of the way there?
The hiking experience is something that I'm going to have to give greater consideration to as opposed to cycling. That was the interesting thing to me, was just the constant walking. I'd never done anything like that. My personal background on physical activity is I'm a runner. And so for me, I usually go out and run an hour or hour and a half, something like that. I get my exercise in like that, and then I'm off doing other things. So this was a unique opportunity to just get out there and walk, which really has brought it's given me something to think about here, because in the trail activities that I've been involved in, the creation of the recreational trail up in Boone County, called the Farm Heritage Trail, I've always looked at that from the standpoint of bicycling. Although I knew, we always put bikers and hikers on there, but I've not really experienced this hiking experience on the Farm Heritage Trail, and now I'm going to plan to do that.
Did you use a hiking stick?
Oh, I used 2 hiking sticks. Now, the traditional emblem, one of the emblems of the Camino is this figure of a pilgrim with a staff, and there's usually a gourd tied on it, which would be a water container. So you have your walking stick and your water, and those are replicated in different forms, different art forms along the Camino. But I talked to a gentleman before going, and he said he and his wife, I asked him about hiking sticks. He said he and his wife always use hiking sticks. He says, my wife can't, she can't do anything. She's just like an animal with those sticks. And so that was, I thought, maybe I'd better take hiking sticks. It was going to be a problem because you can't take them in the cabin of the plane. You have to ship them. And we did not want to ship our bags going over because they might get lost. And you don't want to have that happen. You don't want to get to Spain without anything. So we didn't know what to do with the hiking sticks, but so we shipped those separately. We kept our packs with us and took them on the plane, and we shipped the hiking sticks. And those were a lifesaver to me. I am a real advocate now for 2 hiking sticks. I don't know why people just have one, but some people just have one. Some people have none. So it's a personal preference, but now I have a personal preference from my experience.
Would you recommend this as a trail for people to take?
Actually, while I was over there, I gave that to some consideration. Just as a blanket statement, I would caution people to give it serious, very serious consideration as to undertaking this kind of endurance thing. But I'm telling you, we met all ages, all shapes, all sizes, people that you wouldn't think would be on the Camino, and they were doing the Camino.
So you're glad you went?
Oh yeah, it was. I feel very fortunate to have been able to have this experience. It's been an eye-opening experience from that standpoint.